So today we're in the shop, if that's the right word, of the world.
Sure.
Is it the right word?
Correct.
Of the world famous string expert Florian Leonhard. And what we endeavour to show the viewers today is the difference between why one violin or why one cello should be worth far more money, basically, than another. So we're going to start off, and to help us on our quest, we just happen to have two wonderful experts on that instrument. This is Ellie Sue, who also happens to be Florian's wife, and this is Julian Lloyd-Webber, who happens to be my wife. And we're going to get to the bottom of this today. So what instruments, Ellie, you start off first. What have you got there?
Okay, this is a Guarneri del Gesù, and yeah, shall I play a
Let's
little
hear
bit?
a few bars, yeah. That's your instrument, isn't it?
Yes, that's the
It's
one I
a
normally
wonderful,
play.
wonderful instrument.
Yeah.
How long have you had it?
A few years now.
And Florian, would you want to put a valuation on that?
I mean, we all know that by today, any super violin made in Cremona around this golden era is a minimum of $10 million or pounds or euros.
That's a lot of money.
But the Del Gesù goes way beyond that.
How
And
far
it breaches,
beyond that?
It breaches the 20 million, but we have to.
Well, I mean, how would you describe the feeling of playing this violin?
It really plays. It feels like playing on a tool, which also is always collaborating with you and playing with you as well.
But it's all about the player, isn't it? It doesn't actually play itself. I mean, there's that story of a lady going to Heifetz after a concert saying, "Oh, Maestro, your violin sounded wonderful." And he puts it to his ear and he says, "That's strange, I can't hear a thing." Now, Jorginho, you have a particular cello. Which one is this, Florian?
Oh, it's a Mariani from Pesaro. It's from the 17th century. Super, super old. In all parts original. It's quite a beautiful.
And a valuation on this one?
Much, much cheaper than a Del Gesù. It's it's less than $500,000, let's put it this way.
Okay.
Yes.
What are you going to play us? Well, to me, it's a lovely sound, but I'm not sure how big that would be in the concert hall. Am I right in thinking that? It sounds great in this room, it's a sweet sound, but in the hall it might not have quite enough power to reach the very back.
So it reaches in a warm way into the distance of a large hall, but it's not comparable to Goffredo, Strad, Montagnana.
So we've been talking millions here, Florian. So what have we got now? This is the cheaper end of the market?
That's
Is this
the
right?
cheaper end of the market. Anything that starts sounding quite well is from around £10,000 onwards. And here we have two instruments in that range. And this is a Matthew Hardy. It's an English violin made around 1810. It's in lovely condition, sounds decent. Here we have a modern Italian violin, cello from Cremona, also decent, beautiful sound. But you can ask the players later what they feel, how inspiring that might be, and what is lacking.
Okay, what's your reaction to that?
It
just the deepness.
Yes.
And also. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me it doesn't even have much projection.
Yeah, it's just like a kind of on the surface.
I love the warmth in the violin. That it has a slightly slower response.
To me, that's not a bad sound. It's strong. It's quite powerful, but a bit thin.
It has a little bit of a matchness in the sound, but I think it has a lot of warmth.
Although it's not as good as the other one, but still it's not bad. It's reasonable for that price. It's definitely worth it.
Okay. Now this is the grand finale here. We got two wonderful instruments, and I must say, extremely expensive instruments. So tell us about the cello.
Yeah, I mean, this is Matteo Goffrilla. So Goffrilla is one of those cello makers of cellos for cellists.
Yes.
That is a dream instrument. And so Goffrilla is a Venetian cello maker, and the Venetian cello makers like Montagnana and Goffrilla in particular are very bass strong instruments. They're built in a certain way that they have width and depth in sound and brilliance at the top. Yes. Very, very useful, and still not as expensive as a Stradivari.
Oh, now let's get some figures here. You say much cheaper. How much is this?
Put it in percentages. It's maybe a quarter of the Stradivari cello.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking several millions here, and I haven't heard this yet. I'm looking forward to this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is certainly a wonderful sound. But it's got quality.
And it's all the depth.
It's got the depth and the I can see why. I mean, one of the things about the instruments now is, of course, when they were made, you never had a microphone in front of it like this.
Yeah.
So they need to be powerful in a hall and yet to sound good close up.
Yeah, they have long ranges, so long waves that transport out with a great core. So you have that clarity that you can, even in pianissimo, you can still hear it well.
And I think it would be true to say that the players have to, the better an instrument is, the more they have to work with it and learn how to get certain things out of it.
It's like a relationship.
Yes.
You have all that overtone range. You discover in which place between the fingerboard and the bridge you keep the bow, and which speed, at which pressure, and that gives different colors, but also dynamic range.
And with a lesser instrument, it doesn't matter what you do.
It's nearly the same.
Yeah. So Ellie, you now have a Stradivarius in your hands. Tell us about this one.
It's a of the late period, a Stradivari in really great condition.
So this would be 1730s, 1720s?
Yeah, it's in the 1730s. It's a violin that's still made by the 92-year-old Stradivari. Incredible. And you can still see his handwriting in it. It's so strong and powerful. You can virtually feel it was built by a virtuoso who nearly built it blindly. He had such security and certainty in expression.
What are you going to play us?
I'll play a little bit of the Waxman's Carmen Fantasy.
Okay. To my ears, that is different class. The thing I always find extraordinary about these instruments is that when they were made, the makers had no idea that they'd be played in a place like the Albert Hall. You know, what is it that makes them still the best today?
Incredible, yeah. And on top of that, they're not even anymore in the original setup. They have a different neck angle, they have a longer fingerboard, they have a longer bass bar, a stronger bass bar, different bridge and different strings, even though they have been altered all that way and are being played in different concert halls than they were planned to be when they were first made in the Baroque era, in particular in Italy at first. They were built with materials that are everlasting and are really the best choice. That's what made them so impossibly difficult to copy by makers.
You think you can't really get those materials today?
You can occasionally get them, but it's not easy to be found. But what these guys in those days had, they had a feeling how to select the best materials. People in those days woke up with the sunrise and went to bed with sunset. They didn't have a light switch to flick the light on, and they didn't have a stereo to just switch on the radio. And so the people had different feelings for things. They could feel and sense more than we can today. I myself trained at least for 25 years at the beginning of my career to feel the difference of different pieces of wood that you would select.
So do you mean that our present day technologies actually, we've lost something?
Nearly hinder some access to it. Yeah, I personally, when I went to violin making school, we learned to see in the computer how the vibrations go in the violin, how in a different slowed down, enlarged amplitude, the violin distorts and where it vibrates, at which mode, at which frequency level, etc. And how much amplitude the vibration have.
Which surely must make the whole thing much easier.
You think that, exactly, but you know, the translation of these computer models into the hands, into the wood, still needs to take place, and that's a very difficult thing. So I very early decided, okay, I understand this now, I see roughly how an instrument vibrates and which frequency it should vibrate less and where more, so that you, for example, don't have an instrument that sounds nasal. So you want a brilliance and a depth, and you don't want just a middle sounding. So I decided to try to slip back into nature. I tried to compare millions of pieces of wood and see the result of vibration. You know, you pick it up, you have intuitive feeling. You know, when you touch, just for everybody in the street, if you touch glass or knock on glass, it has a very high pitch, hard response to that knock. Tink, tink. If you do that to a car tire, which is rubber, it's a totally muted bloop, bloop. And if you have in the middle plexiglass, you have a slightly dong, dong, but it's not so great. If you then use metal, it's doing, it goes forever. And within wood, it's a much finer difference, but you have the same differences. So you want to pick that piece that doesn't mute too much, doesn't need too much effort to knock it, etc. So you, of course, you learn over time. Today is quite easy for me to pick it.
Okay, let me put you really on the spot. In 100 years' time, will it still be the Stradivarius, or will somebody come along who has all these benefits of all these computers and the way things should
Very nice
vibrate?
question.
Yeah.
I love the question. Because, you know, I mean, first of all, we see that 300 years down the line, Stradivari is still holding up. Even Amatis from 400 years ago are still going strong. And I would say Stradivari will always have his place, because we all follow Stradivari anyway. He is the god, because he has at the first found the best design, the best wood, the best ground, the best varnish, the best model, the best arching, the best thicknessing, and the most elegant speed in which he expressed his flow of making. So that's what we admire as a package. On top of that, that resulted in an outstanding sound. You do have other makers that are similarly good in different aspects, but Stradivari just covered them all. And that's why he's so celebrated today.
Well, I'm sure we've all learned a lot today, Florian, so thank you so much, and thank you, Ellie, and thank you, Jiaxing. So have you got something you can play us together on these wonderful instruments?
Handel Halverson? Passacaglia.